and welcome back to the Citizen channel and another in our little History Boys feature where we look back at goals. Yeah, we score lots of goals to win things. We just score goals that you go wow or are memorable that put you on the, that save a game or put the not necessarily win a cup, but obviously well remembered by the fans. And this is what this Anatomy of a Goal feature does. And today we're going to look at a goal by SHAUN GOATER. Of course, more important, of course, this goal because it was the obviously set up a victory. It was a crucial time in the game. It didn't feel that way at the time because it was quite early, but it certainly was. And this was in the last ever Maine Road derby. And we'll go back to the 9th of November 2002, City versus United. Of course, Maine Road in its final season before we moved to Eastlands or the City of Manchester Stadium. And please, if you enjoy this and you want to subscribe to the channel, press that subscribe button. Be much appreciated. Press your bell notifications, all stuff, City history stuff, City past, present and forever I do. So anything to do with City, if you're interested, please push that subscribe and push that bell notification. I'd be very grateful. And if you enjoy what I do here, guys, just give us a little thumbs up as well. It's nice to get all your mentions and memories, of course, with this one. Let me know where you were, what you were doing. Do you remember certain things? There's a couple of things I sort of half remember from this that I think are correct, but you'll have your own little memories. So it'd be great to hear from you. If you can't leave us a comment, just give us a thumbs up. That'd be brilliant. So let's go back to the context of the game. I mean, how was City doing? I mean, it was match day, perhaps unlucky for some 13. It wasn't unlucky for us that day. And we sat, far from impressive 14th. We weren't pulling up trees that season, and we'd just literally been dumped out of the Worthington Cup, which of course was the name for the League Cup then, by a team that has become a little bit of a cup nemesis for us. Wigan. Wigan had just dumped us out of the Worthington Cup. And this was Keegan, of course, the boss. He was his first ever derby in charge. And of course, we had an interesting goalkeeper. We had Mr. Peter Schmeichel in net for City. That was interesting. He did make the United fans very happy this day, that's for sure. But it would be a fun day for him, by the looks of him, and of course for all of us Blues at the old Maine Road ground. What about SHAUN GOATER? Well, I mean, by this game, of course, SHAUN had become a fan's favourite, a cult icon, whatever you want to call him. You could call him a legend. Obviously, we ban that word around, don't we? But I mean, he had become a big favourite. I mean, there's not many football players that I know. I can name at least 3 songs that was sung pretty lively at a lot of games when SHAUN GOATER was there. I was actually there at the very start of a song for him was "Come On Feed the Goat." He scores goals, or whatever. There's different versions of it, but it started in the North Stand at a game, so I was there at the very embryo at that one as well. But obviously, there's a couple of songs as well sung about him that are a little bit more better known. But it's not many players. I mean, most players would be happy with one song, but SHAUN GOATER had at least 3 that City fans used to sing about him. But he wasn't always a fan's favourite. I mean, let's say there was a bit of a wary start as far as the fans were concerned. Not his fault, totally not his fault. When he joined the club, I don't think we were on the verge of relegation to the 3rd tier of English football, and obviously that love-hate relationship that we've always got. I mean, we do hate them sometimes. Doesn't mean we don't love you. It's like a marriage, isn't it? We don't mean we don't love City. We just sort of hated them. At that time, I think the old barometer, if you like, was fully in the hate thing, as players were getting a little bit of stick, let's say, from the fans who remained loyal, but obviously we give him a bit of stick. So he joined at that 97-98 period, where things were definitely struggling as far as City and the fans. We love them to bits, but they were pushing our patience to the very edge. But of course, that temporary hate, like, as it did for the team, as I say, it was never real hate. It's just one of those things, isn't it? It's just like a marriage, slightly. It's like it needs a bit of love and care, doesn't it, at that stage? And obviously, they started to give us that feedback, and we started to respond accordingly. So, as City stock rose, of course, SHAUN GOATER's did. Of course, he was knocking the goals in, and it became, by this game, definitely a hero. As I say, some people will call him a legend. So on to that day. It was Saturday, 9th of November. It was an early kickoff, a 12:15 p.m. kickoff. And there's certainly one United defender who hadn't adjusted to the early kickoff time that day. I don't think he quite got out of bed, had he? I was actually sat there. I was sat with my lad in the block. I think, as I say, I'm casting my memory back now, and I'm fairly sure it was the block between the main stand and the north stand where the security was behind. I was in there for this game. I didn't have a season card. I was buying tickets on a game by game basis this season. And yes, just in front of us, and there was a lot of furore at half time and full time and at various times. Yeah, a lot of people coming up to a guy and getting autographs, and it was actually Uwe Rosler was I think this fairly sure this was the game. Was I know he was sort of got his was very poorly. It wasn't about a year or so later, but I think he was there at that game, perhaps less formally than a certain other gentleman. Bert Troutman was there that day, of course, for this game as well. He'd been brought over by First Advice City sponsors at the time. But obviously, less formally, Uwe Rosler was in the crowd. I'm fairly sure it was this last derby game as well. So I'm fairly sure that was the one. Of course. What about United? Well, United, yeah. I mean, it was routine, wasn't it? They come to our ground as the reigning champions, which seemed to be every season. It wasn't, but it seemed to be every season in those days. And they, after 12 games, I mean, say we were struggling. They were sat third, actually, 8 points behind Liverpool at the top. Yeah, United were third. Strangely enough, Liverpool would actually finish this season in sixth spot, so not very good. And sadly, yes, United would eventually retain the title. But that was so they were doing okay, but they weren't. Again, they're not for them. They weren't, But sometimes they were slow starters. United, I sort of remember that. But around Maine Road, as you'd expect from the City fans, there's a belief that we wouldn't let this last league derby at Maine Road go without our pride remaining at least intact. We'll get something out of this game. And it would, of course, if we did win it, which we did. I'm not giving no spoiler alert. Yes, we won it. It would be our first ever Premier League win over United. So another reason to get it done and won. For once, the belief, as I said, that was around this ground. I think even I was pretty confident, guys. I mean, Mr. Glass half empty here. I think I was pretty confident as well. And for once, that belief from the City fans will be justified. There's a packed house. It only held 34,649 anyway. There was a bit of segregation, of course, so that was the maximum we could squeeze into the place. The teams that day, the City team, Schmeichel, Dunn, Vikings, Matomo, Son, Jihai, Berkovic. Wright Phillips came on for Berkovic on 78 minutes. Mark Vivian Foy was playing. Tiato, rest in peace. Tiato, Horlock replaced him on 88 minutes. Jensen, Anelka, and Court. Well, of course, I'm not mentioning him yet. GOATER was playing. And the subs that weren't used, Nash, the keeper, Benabia, and Huckabee. United's team, interesting. Barthez, Gary Neville, replaced by O'Shea on 62, just to save his blushes, I think. Blanc, Ferdinand Silvestre, Solskjaer, Veron, who's replaced by Foden on 62. Phil Neville, Giggs, Scholes, and Van Nistelrooy. And not used, May, Ricardo, and Fortune. So what about the game itself? What about the state of play? It was, as you'd expect with a derby game. Atmosphere was tremendous. City fans were tremendous that day. There was a great atmosphere in the ground. It was a tense affair, as most derbies are, but obviously we saw a little bit of this in the tunnel, didn't we? The very famous video footage as Gary Neville refused to shake Peter Schmeichel's hand in the tunnel, sort of tried to blank him as best he could. But of course, that slight by Neville, he would be made to pay for it very soon, wouldn't he? As the game got underway, it was noticeable, that both teams were making errors defensively and wasting chances up front. But it was only 5 minutes in when City, we took an early lead, and this typical City, we always give us hope, didn't they? We took an early lead as a sort of go-to shot was spilled by United's then king of comedy in net, Barthez, and Anelka, of course, pounced to make it 1-0. But we weren't that surprised when literally 3 minutes later, a certain Ollie at the wheel, Mr. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer took the wheel just 3 minutes later and swept in an equaliser. And then, as I said, the thing about this goal, this is the anatomy of the goal. This is the goal we're talking about. It was 26 minutes, so there was a long time left, but it was an important goal. It was a wonder goal. It sort of changed everything on the pitch. It changed the things psychologically. So I'm going to go over. I've got his book here now. I've got obviously the great book from SHAUN GOATER. Biography, Feed the Goat. So I'll go, what best to explain this goal and just go to the man himself and see what he said about this goal. when Marc Vivian Foy played a long ball up front, he miscued it and it was heading out for a goal kick. It certainly was. As the ball rolled towards the line, I thought, I could make this bad ball into a good ball. Gary Neville seemed to be trying to shepherd the ball out as I chased him down, and I could see the ball was going out. I expected him to shield it as I challenged him, but then he decided to play it back to Fabian Barthez. I anticipated his next move and put in a block tackle, and the ball stayed in play. I edged him out of the way, took the ball in towards goal, but there was nobody for me to square the ball to. I was on my own, so I went along the goal line and tried to angle back in a little before hitting the ball low past Barthez and into the net. While the fans went hysterical, I stuck to my guns and avoided getting too excited. Absolutely understandable, mate. I mean, obviously, it was a fantastic goal. I mean, it was where we were. It was up the far end. Obviously, it was a Platt Lane, and wasn't it? And it was just marvellous. I mean, you couldn't tell from that angle the ball had stayed in, had stayed out. But obviously, the game carried on. You couldn't understand how Barthez couldn't have saved it. It seemed to go through him. But overall, it was absolutely fantastic. Of course, Gary Neville had his head in his hands, and it was total bedlam in the ground. I mean, the context and the conclusions of it. I mean, as I say, the atmosphere was tremendous anyway. The City fans blew the roof off with that. All the GOATER songs, of course, were sung. A new one we got for Neville about Gary Neville is a blue. Gary, but I won't carry on with that one. So that was ringing out. So we had a new hero in Gary Neville. But as I said, there was still 64 minutes to play, as GOATER said it there. I mean, 64 minutes against United is a long time. But yeah, I mean, I say it's not normally something to get excited about, but for some reason, for me, in the ground, it just felt as though something was going to happen. It just felt as though because of that, all psychological advantage moved to City. And of course, we kept that lead till half time to 5 minutes into the second half. Again, a sublime dink by GOATER, and that was his 100th goal. And obviously the one on Bart, the first one, was his 99th goal. He apparently didn't know he was on 98 before this game. So he made it 3-1. And yeah, despite United huffing and puffing, I mean, both teams had chances. I think O'Shea had a brilliant chance just to make it 3-2 right at the death of the game. And I think I just sort of remember him skying it or missing an open net, something like that. So yeah, it was a 3-1 victory. And to be honest with you, against United, 2-1 up at half time, I was never, ever confident. But looking back and remembering back, I think I was fairly confident. It just seemed everything from that GOATER goal just seemed to inspire the gods as well, the football gods, to say, yeah, we're going to win this one. This is our last ever derby at Maine Road, and we're going to win it. GOATER scored his 99th and 100th goal. City had moved up to 12th. United down to 5th. But more importantly, as I said, we'd left with pride and won our last ever Maine Road League derby. Yeah, a couple of articles. I read an article today that was saying it was the 100th and 101st goal. So stick with what City are saying in their literature with their match day programmes, etc. But if I am wrong with that, I apologise. But as I say, I've seen it quoted as his 100th and 100th. But either way, he scored his 100th goal that day, whether it was 99 or 100 or 100 or 101. Yeah, what happened next? Of course, it would be Sean GOATER's final season. He ended up most the second half or the last third of the season on the bench, of course, or not even on the bench, and it would be his last season. And he also scored, of course, don't forget, at Old Trafford in the return match the following February, I think it was. He came on for Robbie Fowler and scored the equaliser in a 1-1 draw. So we took 4 points. We took 4 points off the eventual, yes, they did win it, the eventual 2002-2003 Premier League champions. And yeah, City, we finished a respectable 9th, so it wasn't a total disaster. Things wouldn't be as good the season after, and certain things with Mr. Keegan, but yeah, well, at least we finished a respectable 9th, and we had some great memories of winning the last ever Maine Road derby as we said goodbye to Maine Road, of course. So there you go. Thanks for joining me for this anatomy of a City goal. Of course, we went back to November the 9th, 2002, City versus United, Maine Road, the final season there. And the day Gary Neville, yes, Gary Neville, who'd have thunk it, Gary Neville became a City hero and became a real hero and fed the goat, of course. Let me know what you remember about that day. Did you see Uwe Rosler that day? Is it the game? Are we getting the games mixed up? So let's say I've got an awful memory generally anyway, but I'm fairly sure it was just memorable that Uwe was in the crowd that day as well. Let me know your memories. Hope you enjoyed that. Please, until we meet again, that's one thing, don't I? Please stay safe, Blues. Come on, City. Bye for now.